Hey everyone, today we're starting a new series on the book I know everyone has been waiting for, Deuteronomy. We've wasted the year so far looking at the boring old Gospel of Mark, talking about Jesus and all this stuff that's totally irrelevant to our lives as Christian. And now we're getting to the book, this book of Old Testament laws from Moses that we think is going to be so relevant, right? Okay, that's probably not our attitude towards Deuteronomy. It's one of those books that we tend to skip over, think it has nothing to do with us. So as we start talking about the book today and a little bit tomorrow as well, we want to think about what is this book trying to do and what does it mean for us? How do we use it? For one thing, Deuteronomy is important because of its setting in the wilderness, right? It's presented as a speech by Moses as the people of Israel are about to go into the promised land. They're ending their time wandering in the wilderness. And this idea of wilderness is very central to Scripture. This idea of, in a positive sense, it's where we're reliant only on God. There's nothing else. It's just us and God is with us there. But on the other side, the wilderness is a place of being unsettled. It's a place sometimes almost like exile, that we're away from home or away from where we want to be. And so it's trying to help us survive in that time. And so we live by following these laws that God has given us. But law is not really the best word for it. The Hebrew word is Torah. And a better translation of that would be something more like teaching or instruction, right? Law seems very legal, but teaching and instruction, that's more relational. And that's what God is trying to do and give through Moses in this part of Scripture. It even says in chapter 6 that these are given so that you may enjoy long life, right? So it's an instruction for life. That's the way to think about Deuteronomy. And, when you're in the wilderness, whether that's literal or metaphorical, sometimes you are just trying to survive. But ultimately, survival is insufficient. We want something more. We want what Jesus describes later as abundant life. Now, the way that Deuteronomy sometimes presents this does seem very black and white, right? Make good choices and good things will happen. Make bad choices and then that's what makes bad happen in life. And that doesn't always ring true to our experience. But it is a helpful starting place to recognize that there are foundational ways that we can live our life or build our life that are going to be generally more helpful and other things that are going to be less life-giving for us or for others. Now, it's also true, though, as they're thinking about life, that their lives then are not our lives now, 2,000 or 5,000, however many years later. We can't ignore that distance, right? We can't just take Deuteronomy and think that we can enforce these instructions as laws today. But at the same time, we don't want to believe that Deuteronomy is worthless. So how is it relevant? Tomorrow we'll talk about the importance of love in the way we interpret. But today I would say that we want to read this book with Christ. I think it's notable that when Jesus is in the wilderness at the start of the Gospels, when he's trying to resist temptation, the book that he quotes 3 times is Deuteronomy. He knew that this could give life in the wilderness. So as we look at it, one of the questions we think is, where do we see Jesus in it? Would Jesus say this? Is this fit with how Jesus described God? That is always the way that we read Scripture. And when we do that, I think we will find that Deuteronomy still has instructions for our life today.